I want to pivot a little bit and talk about how money has or has not changed you.
Sure. My first lesson, which is, encrypted in my DNA now, was the idea of working for, pay. And my first job was in high school, and I got it specifically because there was a girl in my grade that I was really interested in, and she got a job at the shoe store in the mall, and I was able to get a job across in the ice cream parlor. And my plan was, when the mall closed down, we could go out, and hang out together, which was a good plan. And so I told her, look, I got a job across the way. And my first day on the job, I'll never forget it, she was in the window putting in the shoes there. It's a small mall. And I was in this ice cream store scooping ice cream. And when people, my first day, it was owned by a woman, I'll never forget it. She says, look, when people ask you for a sampler, here's a little wooden spoon, give them a little sample. But what happens when that occurs, when people do samples, they take their gum out of their mouth and they throw it on the floor. So all day long, gum was piling up on the floor, Mexican tiles in this place. So the first day is over, and she said, you did a great job. You sold $4,000 worth of ice cream, whatever it was. But now you've got to finish up, and you've got to take all the gum off the floor. Now, at that moment, the girl I was interested in was looking at me, waiting to see when I was going to walk out of the store. And I realized if I get down on my knees and scrape gum, I'm in trouble here. This is not a good look. I said to her, look, you hired me as a scooper, not a scraper. And she said, no, I hired you as an employee. You do whatever I say. I own this store. Whatever I say, you're going to do. And I said, I don't think so. If you want to hire somebody to take gum off the floor, that's a different job. If I'd known that, I probably wouldn't take this position. She said, how about this? You're fired. And I went, whoa, what's that mean? She said, it means you get back on your bicycle, go home, don't come back here. I'll send you for your today's pay. I was so humiliated when I got home and explained that to my mother. She said, you should have done what she asked. And I realized right then, and this is the important lesson, this is one of those pivotal moments. In life, there's two types of people. There's the people that own the store, and there's the people that scrape the shit off the floor. And you have to decide, which one are you? I'm not saying it's bad to be an employee, but she taught me such an important lesson. The humiliation of not controlling your own destiny is evident in that story, because that's the way I read it. I thought, this is horrible. Whatever she says I have to do, I'm not going to live my life that way. I never worked another day in my life for somebody, ever again. Now, decades later, I can afford to bulldoze the whole mall if I want. And I go back there to meet her because I wanted to thank her for that moment for me, that amazing moment where she just reset my whole dial, all my DNA. I just didn't want to scrape stuff off the floor, ever. I wanted to own the store, and I couldn't find her. The store was gone. I hired somebody to find her because I wanted to thank her and help her out for making that moment happen to me. But there's a story that tells you a defining moment for one random person deciding what path they were going to take. Entrepreneurship for me, I've never looked back. I could probably buy a whole bunch of malls now if I wanted. Yeah. It's not that important today as it was back then, but that's what happens.
Yeah, and I think that's a great lesson. I often ask my guests, how do you know what you're good at? How do you know where to find your passion? Because, the sort of the default advice is follow your passion. And that may or may not be good advice. But I think the point that you sort of crystallized for me is sometimes you have to do stuff that you don't like doing to figure out what you do like doing.
That's a great point. That's an absolutely great point. And you want to do that early in your career to understand what motivates you. The perfect situation. I mean, I tell entrepreneurs today, and I invest in so many of them, when I say to them, look, you're starting this journey, I want you to understand something. This is not going to be fun all the time. You're going to work 25 hours a day, 8 days a week, because there's some guy in Mumbai or Shanghai that's going to kick your ass if you don't.
And it's forever.
And it's forever.
Yeah.
But what will happen if you're successful? And you won't see it coming. You'll wake up one day and say, oh my goodness, I'm wealthy beyond my wildest dreams. You'll probably go right back to work, but the point is you created something of tremendous value, and the way it manifests itself to you later in life is it gives you freedom to do whatever you want. My number one message to entrepreneurs, and I teach today, is never pursue entrepreneurship for the greed of money. It has nothing to do with it at all. The whole reason to be an entrepreneur is the pursuit of freedom. That's why you do it. You do it because you want to be free one day to do whatever you like. I'm here because I want to be here. I don't have to be here. I don't even have to ever listen to a phone call again if I don't want to. That's not what I want to do. I enjoy spending my time doing the things that I want to do. And I deserve it because I worked like hell to get here. And so I'm a huge, advocate of capitalism. I defend entrepreneurship every day. When people say you don't deserve that, I say bullshit. I deserve everything because I started with this. Everything I have, I created myself, and I deserve what I have. And I feel ferociously about that. And I tell other entrepreneurs, do not be embarrassed about success. Wear it, own it. It's yours, and you deserve it.
So how has success changed you, if any? Like your personality or your...
There's certain things I really enjoy about, being able to pursue them. For example, photography. I own every single camera that I want, every lens that I want. I work with all the manufacturers to shoot with their cameras now because they want me to. I'm going to Botswana next week on safari. I have some of the most eclectic lenses ever made because the people that made them want me to shoot with them, and I'll sell the work for charity. I achieved what I couldn't do back then, and I'd say to my dad, who's still alive, my stepfather, look at this. And he says, look, this is a passion, it's not a business. I said, but I'm doing it, is the whole point. So that's freedom, that's a wonderful thing, and that's because of what I've achieved. I collect watches, some of the rarest watches in the world, as an asset class. And I get access to them because I've been successful.
Well, so that's lifestyle stuff, but how about personality stuff? Like, has it made you jaded, or has it made you more optimistic? Or talk about how, the emotional side or the emotional risks of wealth, because...
Yeah, well, that's a good point. I mean, one of the biggest challenges, let's go to telling the truth in business, because Shark Tank's a great place to show this as an example. The show's been on for, it's going into second decade. We've created
iconic.
Tens of thousands of jobs. We've invested hundreds of millions of dollars. We had phenomenal successes, catastrophic failures. We've had it all. But the point is, when people come out there and you hear an idea, and you've had a lot of experience in that space, perhaps. That's the great thing about Shark Tank. Each one of these investors is a self-made millionaire or billionaire. They've done it themselves. It's not like they were given anything. And so you have to respect that opinion. This is like a venture capital firm on steroids. These are real operators. A lot of VC firms hire a bunch of bean counter MBAs and they try and analyze stuff against the market. That to me, that ain't the real thing. The real thing is one operator to another trying to figure out what the path of least resistance is. That's what Shark Tank is. But you have to make a decision. And I have this fight with Barbara all the time, or OLeary. You're listening to the pitch. The chances of success are practically zero. They're burning their family's money. Why not tell them the truth? Why not say the idea has no merit, it's bankrupt, it's going to zero? It doesn't mean you're a bad person, it just means the idea is bad. And maybe you want to take this life example that you've learned and try something else. You've made a mistake, that's okay. The sting of failure can be the greatest motivator for an entrepreneur. And, Barbara would say, I don't want to hurt their feelings. And I say, well, then you're just going to give them bullshit. You're going to lie to them, and that's disingenuous. You should burn in hell for that, Barbara. You, OLeary, all of you. I'm the only one that tells the truth. And everybody says I'm the mean guy. I'm their best friend. I'm the only one telling the truth. And I'm never going to change on that.
No good deed goes unpunished, right?
Well, the point is, in business, it's binary. You either make money or lose it, right? And I say in a startup, if you can't make money within 3 years, it's just a hobby. It's not a business. It's going to go to zero.
So what you're saying is, if we peel back some of these layers of the onion of Mr. Wonderful, I mean, this is at your core. Your intentions are great. You want to save them time and money, blood, sweat, tears. You have this experience, this hindsight, and you want to say, listen, I'm going to tell you right now, today, this is not working. Just cut bait and do something else. And it comes off as kind of being a hard ass or whatever, but at the heart of it, you're really trying to do them a solid.
Well, I want every entrepreneur to be successful, but that's not going to happen. The truth is 8 out of 10 businesses fail in America within 3 years for one singular reason. They're never able to get their customer acquisition costs below the lifetime value. Fancy way of saying they blow their brains out advertising because they can't get traction. They can't get viral. They can't get people to their site or their business in an economic way. And I'd rather deal with that, and I want them to be successful, but the market's a very competitive place. The barriers to entry in today's world economy are practically zero. And so you need a great idea, you need a certain type of motivation, you need a team most often that helps each other and augments the weaknesses or helps mitigate them. And you know, I look at it that way, and I've got, you know, 39 portfolio companies, and any one day that phone's going to ring, and it will today sometime, with some euphoric outcome, something amazing happened to one of my companies, and some disaster is happening to another one. That happens every single day. That is the ebb and flow of life as an entrepreneur, and I'm used to it. But if you're just starting off, it's very hard to stomach.
Yeah, and there's a lot of questions I want to ask within that. One of them is this burning question I always think about, which is, you know, are entrepreneurs born, or is it something we can learn? And maybe frame or answer it in the context of, what do you look for? You know, when someone goes on Shark Tank, are you looking at that individual, their personality, or the way they present? And how are you sort of judging them, aside from the numbers? Let's talk about maybe the more touchy-feely or emotional intelligence side of things.
I'm going to answer that by telling you a story from decades ago, and I think you'll understand the analogy. When I was in my final months of getting my business master's, my MBA, in that class of maybe 160 cohort, you know, that was at that size, we thought we were such hot shit. I mean, you know, you're finishing and you know everything and you're ready to go and just take on the world. And in comes this guy, and he says, he looks up, he was a guest lecturer, but usually a guest lecturer, you know, gets some slides up or starts talking about a presentation about the company they work for. He was different. He walked in, no slides, no PowerPoint, nothing. He just walked around and looked at all of us, and he said, "You guys think you're so damn good, don't you? Well, when you walk out of here, the real world is going to kick the living shit out of you, and you won't know what hit you. It'll be brutal. About a third of you will be a complete failure. Another third will be spinning their wheels a decade from now, and the other third will be phenomenal successes. Too bad about the other two-thirds, but I'm just telling you the truth." And I looked down at him and I thought, what an asshole. What he claimed in that presentation was that experience is very important in life, and that in fact intuition is just experience distilled. The longer you're at something, the better your intuition is about businesses and people. And I thought, what a load of crap. Today I'm that guy. I'm that guy walking in those MBA classes at Harvard and MIT, looking at them and saying, you know nothing, and the real world's going to kick the living shit out of you. And I can't believe this has happened to me. But he was absolutely right. And so today, with all of the experiences I've had, all the good, the bad, and the ugly, and all of the horrible things that have happened in the businesses I've invested in, and all the euphoric ones and the amazing outcomes, that experience is distilled to intuition. I can sit in a room with somebody for 15 minutes and know if I've got a winner or not. And 99% of the time, I'm right. So I listen to the gut, and I listen to the person, I listen to the plan. I know it's going to work or it isn't. I just know. I'm that good. But he was right. The only way to get to where I am today is having spent 30 years doing it. It's the only way you can do it. You can't buy it. And so I really, really believe that about entrepreneurs and investing in them and supporting them. You need the experience that the road traveled gives you. That turns into intuition, and that becomes a very powerful tool.
How much of your success, let's just lump it in one bulk statement, some of your top successes, how much of that you think is luck? Now, you know, you could say, I made my own luck, that's fair, and I think you're right, you do make your own luck.
Yeah.
But like, sometimes, like, come on, Mark Cuban, right place, right time, right, cashed out, that was lucky, don't you think? Timing. He's a very smart guy.
Yeah, no, and he's gone on to do it, and we all have. We've all had. You need the first big one that gives you the capital to do the next 10. That's what I've learned. You know, somebody told me once, way on the beginning when I was in the second year of, you know, my software venture. He said, the first 5 million is impossible. It's just impossible. The next 5 to get to 10 is really hard. Getting to 25 is pretty easy after you get to 10. And the rest, he was right. The first 5 was hell. It was hell. The second 5 was hell. Then it got a lot easier because by then you're deploying capital with an understanding of how hard it was to make the first 5 million. And I tell my entrepreneurs that in America, if you can acquire $5 million of wealth and have it sitting in a bank, you can live off that for the rest of your life. It's a a great thing to have happen. But in acquiring it, if we're talking numbers now, you're just in the middle of the game at your first 5 million. You don't want to stop there. What it lets you do is take capital to invest in a whole lot of other ventures that you're maybe an operator in, or maybe an investor in, or both. And my path has been, the big exit of the learning company in Mattel. There were 9 of us. It's a $4.2 billion transaction. That set me up for a lot of different things, of which I had great successes and crazy failures, losing millions of dollars on some, making millions on others. And what I've learned goes back to what you just said, you need a little luck. So if you're going to have a portfolio, if you're going to be an investor like I am, you need a lot of companies, because the ones you think are going to be your best winners never are. And the ones that you think are going to be dogs, that maybe you're taking a huge risk and end up being fantastic successes. And the path that this occurs on is very serendipitous. Markets change, economics change, products change. Poo-poo happens. Mm-hmm. And the outcome of that is never known until you get to the end of the road. And so I consider myself a pretty good investor today. I have a very good track record. I use the intuition that I learned from that guest lecturer as my guiding light. I have a huge team that I work with that does all the due diligence. But ultimately, when I deploy the capital, it's just a gut feeling. And I say to the guys, okay, great analysis, great spreadsheets. I want to sleep on it. I do that every week. I mean, we're putting money to work all the time, whether it's a second or third round or a new deal. Sometimes it feels right, sometimes it doesn't. And when I have to tell an entrepreneur I'm not going to invest, and they say, why not? I've got a feeling. That's my answer.